For decades, one country stood as America's most dependable ally, unshakable, loyal, and trusted. But today, that very nation has turned its back on Washington, and extended its hand to Beijing. The announcement stunned the world. No one expected Canada, America's closest neighbor, tied by border, trade, and history, to be the first to cross the line. Yet it all began with a single move. In early October, Donald Trump signed an executive order imposing 100% tariffs on Canadian imports, steel, aluminum, automobiles, even timber. Ottawa was left with a choice: submit to Washington's economic pressure, or forge a new path. Canada chose the second. According to Reuters, the decision was made in total secrecy. Within days, a Canadian delegation quietly landed in Beijing for urgent negotiations. The official topic was energy cooperation, but insiders say it was the beginning of something far bigger: a strategic realignment of power. Bloomberg revealed that China's offer was irresistible: long-term purchases of Canadian gas, uranium, and grain, in exchange for massive investments and full access to Asia's markets. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who had long walked a tightrope between the US and China, finally took a stand. In a national address, he declared, "Canada will no longer be a hostage to someone else's tariffs." Parliament erupted in applause. The White House erupted in fury. Trump fired back on Truth Social, claiming Canada had exploited America for years, and promising it would end. But this time, the threat fell flat. For the first time in modern history, Canada acted not as a junior partner, but as an independent power. The Economist called it economic separatism. The Financial Times described it as a quiet revolution in the North. Then came the real shock. Canada's foreign minister publicly voiced support for China's countermeasures against U.S. tariffs, a diplomatic earthquake that shook every capital in the West. CBC News later reported it was part of a carefully planned strategy. As tensions rose, Beijing was desperate for new resource partners. And Canada, rich in oil, gas, nickel, and rare earths, was a perfect fit. In exchange, China promised billions in energy investments, new Pacific ports, and credit lines from the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Washington went into panic mode. Politico reported that the U.S. Secretary of State tried to reach Ottawa, but Prime Minister Carney refused to comment. One senior U.S. official told the Wall Street Journal, "We always thought Canada was part of us. Now, it's clear, it isn't." For Trump, this wasn't just politics, it was personal. During his first term, he often said he loved Canada, but hated how it cheated America. Back then, it was about trade deficits. Now, it's about power. The economic shockwaves were immediate. The Canadian dollar surged. Chinese markets soared. American stocks fell. Bloomberg reported that Canadian giants, from Suncor Energy to Barrick Gold, began talks with Chinese companies for joint ventures. In Congress, outrage spread fast. Senator Marco Rubio called Canada's move a betrayal of the continent. Steve Bannon warned that Trump had let the genie out of the bottle. Fox News accused Carney of serving Beijing, while others spoke of a new Cold War front. But Ottawa defended its decision. This isn't betrayal, analysts said. It's survival. Economist James Brown from the University of Calgary put it simply: Canada is tired of depending on the White House's moods. This isn't treason, it's growing up. Beijing celebrated. The Global Times wrote, America tried to isolate China but ended up isolating itself. On Chinese social media, the hashtag Northern Partner exploded, garnering hundreds of millions of views. Inside NATO, alarm bells rang. Though Canada remains a formal member, trust is fading fast. The Guardian reported that Brussels is considering restricting Canada's access to classified alliance data, fearing leaks to Beijing. Meanwhile, Canada's transformation accelerates. Financial Post now calls it a bridge between East and West, but that bridge carries danger. For Washington, the loss is enormous. For decades, U.S. industries have relied on Canadian energy. Now, those resources may flow east, and the entire North American energy map could shift overnight. A leaked Bloomberg report revealed Beijing's offer, a $200 billion multi-year gas deal. For Canada, it's economic salvation. For the United States, a strategic disaster. In Congress, lawmakers mutter the same phrase: "We're losing influence in our own backyard." The Council on Foreign Relations wrote that Canada, weakened by tariffs, chose realism. It's better to side with those who buy than those who punish. At the White House, emergency meetings are underway. CNN reports military and economic advisors scrambling for solutions. One analyst put it bluntly: "We've lost the northern flank." Pentagon memos now warn of continental economic vulnerability. Meanwhile, in Canada, pride is swelling. Headlines proclaim a new era of independence. Businesses celebrate fresh deals. Citizens say, for the first time in decades, we're acting on our own. But beneath the celebration lies a dangerous truth. Canada now stands between two superpowers, each demanding loyalty. The Economist captured it perfectly: China and Canada, two different civilizations, united by one goal: to survive under U.S. pressure. In the end, it was Trump himself, through his own economic war, who drove America's closest neighbor into China's embrace. Now, the world watches with unease. The U.S. is losing trust. China is rising. And Canada has quietly become a new force in global politics. This is no longer just a trade dispute. It's a geopolitical turning point. According to a confidential IMF report cited by Bloomberg, if China and Canada merge their industrial and energy systems, North America could face the most profound economic shift since World War II. The era when America dictated the rules is fading, and even its closest ally has decided it's time to play by its own.